Welcome to your Family Health Revolution conversation series with Carla, Atherton, and friends, where our HFF family comes together not to tell you what you should do, but what you can do. Take charge of your health. You can do this. In fact, you're the only person who can. This is Carla Atherton, host of the Children's Health Summit and director of the Healthy Family Formula. And I am here today with another installment for your Family Health Revolution conversation series with friends. And today I have June Nies here with me to discuss a really awesome topic, Reconnection, number 1, the healing power of nature. June Nies, in her own words, says that I was gifted in art class, so I started with a degree in interior decorating. With family and 6 children, my journey led me to certify as a holistic health coach with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, studying over 100 dietary theories. I also studied with Dr. Sears Wellness, Dr. Terry Wahls, blood microscopy, iridology, cranial sacral therapy, Jing Shin Jyutsu, certified fermentationist, certified in EMFs, numerous herbal studies, homeopathy, QiGong, endless seminars and books, and I'm finishing my certification with Carla Atherton's HFF Practitioner Training Program. I am the CEO and founder of Magnifying Wellness. Welcome, June. I just have to tell you, Kayla, this is behind the scenes. I should do a bloopers reel because as I was introducing June, this took me 4 times to actually get through all that stuff. So this is not the initial introduction. And as I was doing that, okay, I have to tell you just one story before I invite June into the conversation, that I am using a different light today because I can't handle ring lights. Like they're a fake light that actually damages your eyes and it hurts your brain. And it's like, it makes me get a headache. And I'm thinking, if I'm going to be doing this so much, I create a lot of content. If I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to use a healthy light. So I'm using my light that I got from Ken Cedar that I use like for health purposes, and it's a broad spectrum, more of a daylight, like it's a beautiful healing light. And instead of using my ring light, I'm using that, except it is timed. So it's on a 15-minute timer. So you're going to see me reaching over, turning the light back on, and trying to illuminate my environment once again. So it's very appropriate that we're talking about nature today because it is more a reflection of nature. It is a natural light. So isn't that fitting that this is the first interview that I'm actually going to use that beautiful light instead of this horrible ring light that gives me a headache. So June, welcome to the conversation.
Oh, I feel privileged to be here. I'm just so glad that you invited me, and I look forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And you know what? You were the first person I thought of for this topic because, yes, you were, because we talk a lot. Like, I get to know my trainees very well, and we talk a lot about nature in our programs, all the programs. And June, I know that you have a very intimate relationship with nature. I think we all should, but not all of us actually do. And I know that it's been a very large part of your upbringing, your wellness as well as healing processes. So do you want to give us a little bit about your background and how nature is very integrally woven into your very being?
Oh, yes. I've got so many memories of growing up. I grew up on a dairy farm with my mom and dad, and
Hmm.
oh, we had a beautiful dairy farm. I can remember raising goslings under a light bulb and out in the river catching tadpoles and out drinking water from a bubbling spring. We had several bubbling springs and raising and riding horses and all that kind of stuff. But it was very close to the earth, and it really I knew was good for me. It gave me a lot of common sense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's
And
so
your upbringing was very different than mine to some extent because we never went camping. We lived in the city. like, and not like right in the heart of the city, but it was still a city. But like sought out nature on my own, and so to some extent, like there was a coulee kind of nearby, so we'd kind of skip out of our neighborhood and go to this farmer's little like pond, that we call the coulee. And then when I got older, when I was on I just take off on my bike. But when my children were born, June, that's when I was like, yeah, this is the stuff, man. Like, because we spent hours and hours on the riverbank, just like catching crayfish and pond dipping, and like literally, like we'd be there for like 6 hours. I'm like, I don't care. Like, well, if we get hungry, we'll go grab some food out of the car that we got from the grocery store, or like, whatever we had, and we'd picnic there and stay. So it was like the best education my children had, and we'll get into that in just a second. But tell me more about how, because there are so many things to be said about nature, about the power of nature. So let's talk about like how your upbringing in nature informs your health.
It makes me think of walking in the forest, walking in the woods, and I
Yeah.
would see how rich the ground was, and it was so black, and there's so many beautiful flowers, and we'd see so many different things that somebody that isn't in that type of environment, like we'd we'd see turtles. And once I saw along the river a turtle nest, and I couldn't get over the turtle eggs. They looked like little ping pong balls, and there were so many of them. And us kids were so excited. And then Mom made us go put them all back. I don't know whatever happened to them. I, it's more than just watching on National Geographic to really discover it. There's so many discoveries. And now today I needed some rich loamy ground for my stevia plants. And usually my stevia plants are getting a little bit yellow. And I thought, I've got to find some of that good old um, loamy ground someplace. I got 10 acres, and there's got to be some someplace here. And I went searching for it, and I found some, and it's like, oh, just to look at that loamy ground with the rotting leaves and the rotting wood and that sort of thing. And I know that my stevia is going to do better this year because I took the time to go look for it. So,
Oh, yes, it
and
is.
my rose bush, I bought a new rose bush that really got me. So anyway, that
Yeah, and I think like so really the examples are about how nature is really, I think nature is everything we need to know. Like everything we need, our children need to know, everything we need to know, because those little eggs that you found, I think about like, my relationship with my cats, or like instances in my childhood where there was actually one time where we actually, raised some chickens in a class that I was in. And that was like, I remember that to this day, as opposed to everything else we were told from in a classroom or from a book. And with my kids, they were unschooled for a lot of years. And just to be like, identifying animal scat, or knowing which animal did, a certain thing, like who'd been there, what the tracks were, observing a mom and a baby, animal. Like the other day, a moose came through our yard with its calf, and literally it's like you don't even have to go through it. If you want to, you can, right? You can say, I've learned about life, birth, death, gestation, of a a new life. I've learned about in the garden. I learned about what seeds need to grow. I learned about water and soil, and being out there in nature actually helps me to grow and become healthy. I mean, we are part of nature. We need to be out there. And when I talk about my cats, I watch like how they respond to life, and like, and they're not reactive, and they don't have the stressors we do. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing? I want to live like a cat, like I just want to go get food when I need it. I want to sleep when I want, groom myself, take care of my young or whatever. And just like not be in this stress state that us human beings actually create. So when we are in nature, we learn all of that, like all without even identifying each one of those categories or lessons or whatever. We don't even have to. Like when I looked at that mom moose and the calf, it's like all of that knowing just washed over me. Like I went, I said to my husband, I was like, look, and we just were like, look, just watching, just no words. And we've had numerous occasions like that, with a badger or a skunk or like deer in the yard, and like us as family, and or the northern lights, the clouds, all of that. It's like a physical experience as well as a spiritual experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. It's like entrancing. It
isn't
makes
it?
it takes you in a different world, and so healthy. It's medicine, We don't have to get a shot to receive that, or a pill. Hmm.
We so don't. And that's actually a really good point, June, because that's what we kind of have been led to believe. And we really literally have the answers right at our fingertips, and it's free. You go outside. You go
Exactly.
outside,
Hmm.
right? And I know one of your go-tos is gardening. Is that right?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. And my mom and dad got me started with gardening, and I was thinking of a picture that mom and dad took of me, and we were with our new favorite pet. Her name was Ginger, and I was
Mm.
holding up the largest potatoes as I could. I must have been like 4 years old, and they were so heavy, and I was supposed to hold them up. Well, mom and dad took a picture, and the dog stood alongside of me. And and I watched mom and dad and all the excitement of getting those potatoes out of the ground, and oh, look at that one, and it was like magic, sort of, and
Yep.
it's like I don't even eat that many potatoes, but I've got to plant a row of potatoes because in memory of my mom and my dad. I mean, he was doing potatoes in his 80s yet, so I got a lot of hope.
Wow, I love that. And there aren't those beautiful stories. I remember one time we actually so with the food that we eat too, right? Like being connected to the food that we eat. I know you are a fermentationist. And so you know that the microbes in the soil are also super beneficial for our health. And so when you're in the garden like that, like you don't even realize why you feel so good, why it's so like life-giving, and it's all of those elements like the sun and the air, but also the microbes in the soil that we need to
Mhm.
aid us in our own health, like just to maintain health, to digest our food, all of that stuff. Yeah.
And it's invisible, but there's some sort of an electricity or chi or
Yep.
something that's transmitting to our body. Like when I'm out in the garden, I like to be touching the ground if I can. And so
Hmm.
often you've got to have your tennis shoes on, or your rubbers, or your plastic gloves. And
Yep.
I like to get my knee on the ground or something because I know then I'm connecting with the earth. And there's so much, like when we're on the computer here, just like you were saying, all that in the atmosphere, we don't see it, but it's
Yep.
affecting our health, the EMFs and
Yep.
the radiation and all that. And so that brings us back into balance. Sometimes when I'm feeling kind of stressed, it's like I'm gonna just go lay out in the grass, and it's so wonderful to just do it in the evening, especially when there's stars out and a full moon, and that's so
Yeah.
healthy. Just I'm learning it's if you can look at the moon 7 minutes as often as you can, it improves your eyesight. And I know it does because it brings my eyesight into better focus. So there's so much out there that we don't hear about.
We don't pick it apart. We just go, wow, that feels good. It feels good to be on the beach. That's because you're grounding. That's because you're realigning your energy to the actual earth. Like, so when we're inside, right? Like well, actually, it's kind of interesting because Richard Louv, he coined a term called nature deficit disorder.
Mhm.
And like, I don't want to pathologize everything and make everything into a diagnosis or a disorder, but to actually kind of put that thing into perspective, it's really interesting to know that people are exhibiting like specific sets of symptoms or dis-ease or disharmony because they're inside too much, and children included. Like our whole families are experiencing that. I actually was experiencing that today. Like literally today. That's why I've like decided no more. I don't care if I've got like some kind of fancy ring light like everybody's supposed to have. Nah, 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 nah. I'm gonna do what is healthy for me. And I was experiencing like too much indoor time because I'm working like 16-hour days, like really long days this week, like way too much, out of balance. But I still do my walks and I still do my yoga and I still am doing that, but it's not enough to counteract the amount of time that I'm spending working or being indoors. Like, so it's balance, but also way more. So I'm like gonna go work. If I'm gonna work at all more today, I'm going outside and I'm going to actually use a paper book and I'm going to actually use a pen and but like I mean, so instead of like getting all radiated like you were saying, June, I'm going to go get my energy source from the earth itself.
Mm,
And because I was feeling so off. Oh, I gotta turn on my light again. Here we go. There we go. Turn on the sun. So yeah, and it is, and when we're not aware of that, like that we are deficient in vitamin N, vitamin nature, right? If we are right, if we're deficient in that or depriving yourself of that, we will have all of these things like depression, anxiety, feeling like can't handle life, overwhelmed, like disharmony, even like disconnection from other people. Like feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something like just this anxious, bad feeling, and also physical things like headaches and like even chronic conditions. We'll start to feel like that without knowing that
mhm.
the reason is that we're not tanking ourselves up and getting outside, and the solution is just easy. It's get outside.
Yeah, it's simple. Yeah, and then our mindset, we need to have a better understanding of how important nature is, and even getting dirt onto your fingernails, which
Oh yeah.
sometimes I see people with these fancy fingernails, and it's like, oh my, I feel, shame, or I'm going to hide my fingernails. But I heard this one gal say, um, dirt on your fingernails is healthy. That's like medicine. We're getting
Oh yeah.
the earth. And she would never put fingernail polish on her nails, and so I do sometimes, but I don't. Anyway, when I see the dirt under my fingernails, it's like, oh, I just gotta, that was good. That was good. And I did a good thing for myself. And just a little fingernail brush gets it out. And I found that lemon peel, the pit inside the lemon. If you rub your fingernails in that, they'll just get as white as clean as if you weren't out in the garden. So
Yeah. Well, but I mean, like, wear it, like, rock it, like, rock that dirt, okay? Because I have a friend who's got like, she has I just saw her the other day, and our daughters are best friends. They're roommates now. And my friend, they have an acreage, and we have an acreage too, but we only have cats, okay? We don't, I can think of two people. So my cousin and my friend, and they both have lots of animals. They rescue them. Like they spend all this money on these animals that they want to like take care of because they're very giving, kind people, and they have a lot of responsibility there. And then they're always dirty, in the dirt, in the hay, and one of them's in the garden all the time. One's in the hay with the horses, right? So they each have kind of like a little bit of a different thing that they do on their land. But the one my friend, she like showed up one day to pick up her daughter, and she's got this like cool looking straw hat, like like a cowboy hat, but like one of those ones that's kind of like folded up on the sides. And then she's just got like these rubber boots, and she's super dirty, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm just filthy. And I'm like, you look like a goddess. Oh, look at that. Yes.
one of my favorite ones.
I'm so I love it. I'm so sad I look like a lunatic in hats. I don't know. They
Oh, but
don't work.
it's nice.
But that's a good hat on you.
Fleet Farm
Love it.
business. Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Rock it.
Out of your
And you know what that pardon me, hun?
Keep the sun out of your eyes and your face.
Exactly. And she's tan and she's just, and I'm like, you look like a goddess. Like it's like it is health itself. It's like when you see people who are out there and like the kids are out there and their parents are out there and everybody's just like doing their own thing in their yards or their gardens or they're hiking or they're biking or they're just on the trails, on the riverbank or the, forest. You feel like they exude health. You feel it, right? It's not that fake putting on makeup, touching up so you can look good. Like this is like for real. It's like literally rocking that dirt. You got nothing on but like some coconut oil in your hair. We were talking about that earlier. And that's what it is. That's the stuff of life.
Oh yeah, it's great to invest in that sort of thing. The tools for the garden. Somebody was saying, "Oh, that costs money," but it's an investment. I could be buying a boat like some of the other people, and then I've got people with boats in my barn, and they're just sitting there. So anyway, I'm not afraid to buy a good hoe or a good tool.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, or a good net for crayfish. Like that. Yeah, that's what we do. Actually, if we spent money on anything, I mean, nature's free, right? But if we spent money on anything, it would be stuff like that, like nets or books. Well, books like isn't something to do with nature, but it's definitely was something a part of our like upbringing of my children. And so, okay, so we've covered like what happens when we don't spend enough time outdoors. We're talking about spending time outdoors and like the benefits of it, the health benefits of it. Um, Also, one thing I would like to actually touch on is perhaps the spiritual nature of nature. Like how, because I know that you and I are very different, like we're different but the same. So I know that you have like spiritual beliefs and you talk a lot about God. And for me, I'm very eclectic, yet I have the same, like, I have a spiritual, I mean, I'm very spiritual. And one of my places where I find my connection to whatever's bigger than me is in nature.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something sacred about nature, and
Mm.
just some of the free things. There's something sacred about it. I was reading about humming. I'm a multitasker, so it's like I'm going to get as much out of my garden as I can. My garden time. So I was
Yep.
studying humming, and humming is very healing, and you can feel the vibrations, and because you're out there maybe doing tedious things in the rows, and to hum, that is so healing, and you can. It's good for your pineal gland, and it just changes things for you, and yeah, nature is sacred. It is something spiritual. And I believe in a creator. And I don't think that nature is an accident. So I
Right.
I like to talk to him while I'm out there too, and thank him for making these plants available for me, and the soil, and today just helping me find that ground that I was looking for. I was starting to think I wasn't going to find it, and then I found it. So
Uh,
yeah, it's good. And then like I believe that weeds are so good, and
mm-hmm.
God put those plants out there, I believe, for a reason. And I've got a book. You're talking about books, and one of my favorite books, and I'm sure this isn't going to show up, but it's today's herbal health. It's going to be backwards. And
Sweet.
it's in there about dandelions and nettles and angelica, and I'm learning how to use my weeds, which are, a lot of them, they'll just come up volunteers or they'll be perennials. So it's free food. It is.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And foraging and learning I actually bought my son a book because he loves like wilderness kind of stuff. And I bought him this book about like medicinal plants in our area, right? Because so we learn things about like how to keep ourselves healthy, how to recover when we're not feeling so good, and what plants are good for what. My daughter is like a chronic tea drinker. Like she's like like literally drinks like 10 cups a day. And then it's like things like nettle and green tea and like all these different things that you can find in nature. And we know that, hey, someone has cramps, we're doing valerian. Or if someone has a headache, I mean, maybe we should look at some peppermint. Or we want to add something to our food that is anti-inflammatory. We're using things like turmeric. And my mom was just obsessed with this information about oh, saffron, because they actually saffron comes from the center of a crocus, and we have actually wild crocuses on our land.
Oh,
Because a lot of our, yeah, so because some of our land is pristine, like it's never been farmed over like in the bush area.
mm,
And like saffron, I'm like, well, I'm not getting into like
that's
harvesting
expensive.
saffron because you literally get like a little, like, you know why it's expensive? Because you get like a little fluff from every flower. And I've got maybe like, we could gather maybe like 20 flowers. So not doing that as a business, but
Mm,
it's so cool. And then we learn how one plant, grows really well, with the other. And like, it's so fascinating. And for children to learn that, it's like they get a new appreciation for not only their food, their bodies, but
mm,
for life itself. Like if you get a kid in there gardening, right? They're making the food.
mm.
They're eating the food and they're appreciating it because they did that and they knew what it took and they have a pride in it and a connection to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got into the heirlooms. I've been gardening for like 50 years and more. So I got into heirlooms and I'm just fascinated. A friend of mine gave me some seeds and they were bean seeds, climbing bean seeds. And the heirlooms have flavors that we do not find in the grocery store. So that
Mm,
gives a person incentive also to do the little extra effort. I look at it, it's
yeah.
part of my gym work, and but these climbing beans, and you can save the seed from year to year, and they had so much flavor. The first one that I got from her, I just ashamed of myself. I didn't keep it up. I didn't realize I was never going to find it again. No, I hope someday I do. But it was a beautiful three-colored bean, and it was big and fat, and they would get they'd get over a foot long. They'd be a foot and a half long, and they were so tender. They tasted like peas.
Mm,
I couldn't get
mhm.
over it. They taste like peas, but if you put them in the refrigerator, they turn to mush in a little while. So
Oh,
it's like it's like okay, no wonder the store don't have them. But now I got
well,
an
sure.
yeah, now I've got
And,
another
and
one.
it's
Yeah, it's not the same, but it's similar.
Yeah, and that's the thing too when we get, I mean, yeah, we have to like do grocery store sometimes. I mean, I actually maybe all the time or like unless you have a huge garden, but if you're growing some of it and your family is involved in it, um there is that opportunity to invite that more and more of that into your life,
Mhm.
and there's nothing better than like a fresh plucked carrot, like you just knock the dirt off, or shelling that pea as you're sitting in there, or like, well,
Oh,
we need a salad, hey Johnny, can you go out and pick some stuff for our salad? Like it's just, and it's not just like a fake thing where we just pretend like we're homesteaders or something back in the day. Like it's literally can be a way of life. You can have containers on your deck or on your balcony. Like let's say you don't have as much access, like you don't have a big acreage like I do, or like a garden like you, June, or horses. Like you can go with your family and experience nature. Because when we were in the city, we did have a big yard. I'm like a brown thumb though, like not a green thumb. Like everything I touch dies, but I still try. I still try. But we would, when we were in the city, we'd go to the river, or we would like we would literally just drive out, like out of the city, and do something out there, or we would park hop. So we would spend time in a park, and then like the next time we'd be like, I don't know, I've never been to this park, let's go to this playground in this park and play ball or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything like related to like cultivating the earth, just being out there
right.
brachiating on the monkey bars, and like it's so
Mhm.
good for the brain development too. And the smells, oh
Oh,
my goodness. Like what I have, like when I go on a walk, and I walk past this one area of my
Mhm.
yard, like, as I'm just starting to go down the road. And they call it like a forest aroma. I can't remember that, what the words are, but like literally, I don't know what's going on biochemically, but I feel healed the
Ah,
second I smell that forest smell.
yeah, it's affecting all of our senses, the sight, the
Yeah.
beauty, the ears, what we hear,
Mm.
and what we taste and smell. And that rose I was telling you about, I searched it
Yep.
online until I found a fragrant rose because it's like that's what I grew up with. And if a rose isn't fragrant, to me, it's not a rose. So anyway,
Yep.
yeah, fragrant roses, there's something healing about that. And besides that, you can make
Mm.
lemonade out of it if you wanted to. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I'm learning different, like marjoram. Oh, the plant of a marjoram, if you just walk past that. And then there's cilantro. I know the first time I smelled cilantro, I was like, what is that? I thought it smelled like a skunk. I was like, oh, yuck. I read that that was supposed to be a good thing to plant. So I planted it and I just brushed against it and I was like, oh, I just detested it. And now I just love it. I just crave it. It's like our senses are so different. And then I went to the botanical gardens and I've been volunteering there. And then I
Mm.
found learned some more plants and shoshi. Oh my, shoshi smells like perfume and it looks like a basil plant,
Oh,
baby basil plant. So anyway, it goes by another name too. I don't even know how to say it. It's Peau or something like that. But
okay.
yeah, I put that in my sauerkraut. And when you're making sauerkraut, you're oh, it's gourmet. It's got so much flavor. The more you play with it and add things to it, some peppers, it'll be red and colorful, or carrots. And you put shoshi in there, it's like kind of a perfume. And it's so interesting and learning. Dr. Wahl says try and eat as many plants as different kinds of plants as possible and count them.
Hmm.
And I'm got to be counting them, but always try and add more, and some of that stuff you aren't going to find in the grocery store. So that's a privilege to be able to have a garden and try some of that. And nowadays they've got so many different things out. I mean, they've got bags you can put plants in, and it just
Right.
like gunny sacks or something, and you can grow a big tomato plant in there or something. And yeah, there's boxes. I've done box garden with the
Hmm.
community, and they're actually giving out free boxes with the soil in our area, our community, and just to encourage gardening because it's so important, and that's one of our freedoms, and it's one of our ways
Hmm.
to be healthy and independent, and we don't want that stolen from us. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I think like the more immersed in nature our children are, the more respect they have for our planet. So then we have like these residual effects of like less imprint, footprint on the earth. Like our kids are feeling like wanting to be more responsible for their waste and for what they, put onto into the earth. Like so we're going to have a future of a healthy planet just by getting our kids outside as well. So it's not just us that are going to be healthier, it's actually our entire planet. And
mhm.
also with a connection to animals, like we mentioned that. Like I got like getting on a horse. I was like, whoa, this is the craziest thing. And I know you know this, like horses, but um it is like an awe-inspiring experience. And my cousin actually leads groups of kids in with like horse therapy, right? Like so where it is like so calming for children or adults to be with those animals. It is stress reducing. It's helping kids to return to their harmony. That a lot of these things that we do indoors is actually kind of creating, these problems of, like, I don't know, addiction, depression, aggression, right? Like it will see like all of that fall away once they become more in tune with their natural world and themselves. So it there is like the sky is the limit for what can happen for us when we return to nature.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just want to say one thing about an experience I had last night, even. I left my windows open purposely because it was raining outside. And you talked about the sounds, like, yes, I am like, I love thunder showers, and I'm just like, woo! I'm like, people are like closing up and they're like, ew, it's raining. I'm like literally that person that's outside jumping up and down, unless it's like lightning. Okay, that's not smart. But but if it's like if it's rain, I'm out there on the deck or like jumping out. Like they are the most powerful things, the most powerful experiences. And the sounds of nature, like I have some things on my phone. Okay, sometimes, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But like literally actually hearing it for real,
And surprising.
that is,
I'm surprised by it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm that way too with the rain. I get on my rubbers, and I've got my special rain jackets, and it's so refreshing to me. I just love it out there. I get a lot done when it's raining. I like it.
yeah, because it's life. It's
Hmm.
life,
Yeah,
right? The water and it's like washing everything away. I mean, we could go into metaphor and all kinds of stuff. Like we could go way further with this conversation, but yeah, it's the stuff of life for sure.
it sure is.
All right, June, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up that, you
Mhm.
just want people to know about nature and how life-giving and healing it can be?
Yeah, it's so free, really. I'm so glad that that one book that I showed you, I learned about those things, like purslane. I mean, now it's coming up abundantly. And if you're gardening, you want to know what purslane is because it's got omega-3s in, and they've got
Mm.
domesticated type that stand up straight, but the ones that go on the ground, they just need a little bit more water, and they taste just as good. Um, there's just so much with gardening. There's so much free stuff, and anyway, it's addicting. I find it addicting. I'd, I'd
In
sooner,
a good way.
yeah, in a good way. It's a good addicting thing. It's like I don't envy those people that are gone on vacation all the time because it's like, oh, I got my friends in the garden, and like angelica. It's one of the first things that comes up in the spring, and it gets to be 6 feet tall, and it's good for the hormones, and that's Don Quay is the root. But anyway, there's so many secret things out there that are out there waiting for you to discover them. And it's
Yeah.
all
Oh,
medicine.
it's free medicine. It is. It's medicine for the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul, for sure, for the whole family. So I'm just going to encourage everybody to get your butts outside more and more and more, as much as you possibly can. And I'll trust me, your tank will be full. Your tank will be full. You won't need anything else. So thanks, June, for having this conversation with me. It was really fun. And I have a great day. I hope you get outside today.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and I want to order some guinea hens. My son wants guinea hens, so we don't have so many ticks. And I'm getting chickens that lay chocolate eggs to make go with my chickens that lay the blue and the green eggs and the white eggs. And anyway, life is so exciting.
It is. It is, right? Okay, look at us. We look like a couple of little kids. And that's what you'll maintain when you stay outside, when you get outside, when you reconnect with your heart and spirit. Because, yeah, so keep that youthful spirit that is natural within us, for sure.
Oh yes, medicine.
Medicine.